Enter the Mindscape podcast with Chuck Bailey. I'm your host, Chuck Bailey. This is going to be a new podcast, this is going to be a podcast, obviously, where I go over my creative endeavors, obviously, like my writing stuff, my TCG stuff, because it's something I do. I'm like into TCG stuff, and as well as other, random topics I may have to talk about, um, current events. Um, or if I just want to rant about, I don't know, a TV show I'm watching or something. I'm not watching a TV show right now, so I don't have anything like that. But, anyways, we'll just start this episode as a very introductory, just, hey, this is the new episode. Now, first, I have to apologize because the sound is going to be a little different than what it should be because my usually I would use an audio mixer, but the audio mixer is just not working as it should with the system. It's either the system I'm using, which right now I'm using Power Director, which I haven't used before, to just straight up take a video, or my audio mixer that I let sit around for a year not being used. It might not be as good as it was a year ago, but either way, it wasn't that great to begin with. So, anyway, the idea is to start things off with the basic introduction. How's everything going? It's me, Chuck Bailey, your friend, your lover. No, I'm kidding. Um, Basically, I am an author. I published this just a couple years ago in the Shadows of the Forest. My first novella is survival horror. Feel free to check it out if you want. That's basically my first entry into the whole writing career. I've been working on this kind of thing for 10 years, though. In fact, the first story that I ever wanted to do, I still haven't written it yet, too. I started writing it in 2015, probably around the end of it. But definitely, been working on that for 10 years, or I had been working on that 10 years ago. It's not like I've done recent work on that one either. But we'll, you know, I'll probably get into more of that later. About the podcast, let's see. Um, I'll probably just be starting things off very simple. Like I said, this will be a very introductory episode, but we'll go into some like personal news. So, personal news wise, it's funny. It's as if someone would be like, "Hey, how are you? What's new in your life?" Which people don't typically ask. So that's why I feel the need to dump on this. In fact, another podcast I'm in, Hanging with the Hooligans, I try to do like a personal news thing, and I try to get everyone else to talk about what's new in their lives, and they still don't ask what's new in my life. So here we are, finally. I'll get to dump it. Even though it's not like it's anything interesting. Recently got my health insurance and getting on some ADHD medication, which who knows? Maybe they'll make things a little more focused with the podcast here. Maybe it will help me focus a little more on my work here, writing and otherwise. But I don't know. We'll see. As well as I'm still slated to call the doctors about 10 more times about all sorts of other stuff. So we'll hopefully see some improvement in the coming episodes, as well as seeing a improved system, like sound system and all that. The other thing was going to be talking about current events. I am so over talking about current events. Not only I've tried to record this episode like 4 times, if not more, probably like 5 or 6 technically. Um, so I've talked about it about 5 or 6 times, like current events, and it's been the same thing. It is September 14th today. So 4 days ago, Charlie Kirk was shot, and it has just been a turmoil thing ever since then. I'm not going to talk about that again. I'm just done. I don't. It's just I don't have the energy to talk about it. I I've said my piece on all sorts of social media. I said my piece on hanging with the hooligans. So instead, I'm going to talk about the Nintendo Direct. That was another thing that happened. And not as many people have been talking about that, but I saw it on YouTube and I was like, oh shit, Nintendo's got some new stuff they're doing. So if you guys haven't heard, there's been a lot of discourse regarding the Switch 2 and price increases thanks to Donald Trump and also thanks to corporate greed as a whole. So they're going to be increasing the price of games, and people are very mad about that. And they were going to be increasing the price of the Switch as well, which I think is not as bad. So I heard a lot of people complain about games being $80. And it's like this. I've seen a lot of games go for $80, and I too am skipping them. Like I thought it was a lot when they were freaking $60, $70, But yeah, here we are, man. Things just keep getting more and more expensive. Um, so yeah, I noticed that they announced the second Mario movie. I'm stoked. It's gonna be Mario Galaxy. I'll probably go see it in theaters. Be the fucking 31-year-old guy in it with his wife watching the kids movie. um, a lot of the same when it came to game announcements. Like really, like seriously, they were like, "Hey, remember this game? It's coming to the Switch 2." And they even did things like the closest thing where I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Was like there's a new Yoshi game, which is basically like Yoshi Story 2, which if you played Nintendo as a kid, you may know Yoshi Story, which was kind of a storybook kind of themed uh, Yoshi game, and they kind of did that again, like same aesthetic and everything. So there's all sorts of stuff, by the way, that I'm not gonna touch on the Nintendo Direct because you know, yeah, I watched it, but it's not like I was enthused with a ton of it. I was even making jokes to my wife, going like, "Oh, oh man, they're really gonna make another Mario Tennis game," and then it actually ended up being one of the more exciting things because my favorite Mario character is actually Baby Mario, and they had like a baby adventure mode on that game, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's interesting," you know. But all that aside, there we go. That's how it's going to work when I talk about current events. I'm going to rant about something like that, you know, and hopefully not always just give you the fucking news. But yeah, other things is going to be talking about goals, and this isn't writing goals, just goals in general. So obviously, like for example, trying to get things back to going with my health. A couple years ago, I was becoming a bit of a gym rat, and then I fell off. I got a girlfriend, started doing other stuff. You know, and now I'm kind of trying to go back to that lifestyle, which doing a bad job right now as it's 11:57 at night. But I used to wake up early, work out. You know, by the time I was going to my job at 1:30, I was my day was halfway over, which makes sense because when you get off work, it's 10 o'clock. It's like, all right, yeah, I can go to bed. My day's over. I don't feel like I need to do anything extra. Versus today, it's Sunday night, and it's like, oh, my weekend's over. I have to go to work tomorrow, and it's like, I want to get something done before that. And here I am trying to get this freaking podcast recorded for the freaking seventh time. Um, so yeah, health is going to be a pretty big one of physical stuff. Um, Financially, oh man, if you guys, I didn't say this, but I have a business with a partner or a close friend or brother of mine, Gilbert Ortiz, and I wrote a book here, Shattered Legacy: Domains Divided. It takes place in the multiverse of that trading card game, and so that's a huge goal is getting things rolling with him again, because we've kind of, for the most part, other than writing the story and getting the story out of the basic game, um, we haven't had a lot of product come out. So we're working on things, whether it's the trading card itself or other products. You just wait and see, you know. because that is going to be happening this year. And then another thing, just because it's right next to me, here's some of the cards. Um, this isn't the regular design. This was actually a collab we did with an artist that was in the trading card selling scene. He kind of went AWOL. Like, I don't know, scammed some people or something. I don't know. But I still like his art, so at least we got that. Um, anyways, so that's how the goals section is going to work. Is I'm going to talk about something like that. Moving on, here we go. Is talk about my writing updates. So I have a whole slew of projects. A huge, insane, um, a lot, a lot. Like, I have a wallpaper to remind me of what I want drafted by the end of the year. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 manuscripts that I want to finish by the end of 2025, and we're in the last quarter. And I haven't finished. Um, I haven't finished any of these, but I have started all of them to some extent or another. So some of them are pretty close to being done. Some of them aren't. One is really close to being done, and that's the one I'm just, it's a crime novel, or that's what I'm going to call it. It's a crime novel. Just think of it like a supervillain origin story, but in this universe, it's not like a superhero kind of universe. You know, um, it's a very like grounded, for the mostly grounded universe. So that's the kind of story I'm writing, and I'm working on that. And it's a format I'm not quite used to, so I'm doing like first person, which I have a couple first person stories, but also I'm trying to take it at a bit more of a jovial tone, despite it being a supervillain. And I was actually, it's because like I think I was reading a lot of like Rick Gualtieri stories, Bill of the Dead, Toma Bill. I forgot what it's called, which is a like comedic fantasy, urban fantasy kind of vibe, and I ended up getting the same idea for this story where it's like, well, I can make my protagonist, despite being a villain, kind of make it like a comedic thing, but not like a cringy Joker thing. But we'll see how it lands, honestly, because some characters are meant to change, and that's kind of the point of where I'm starting off with this character is the character I want them to be by the end of the story is going to be a lot different than what we're starting with. So hopefully, hopefully we'll see how people react, and hopefully I'll get some feedback because ultimately, I haven't published a lot of stuff yet still, and I'm growing as a writer every day, and with every published work, I'll be able to kind of work on my voice a little more. Um, the other huge, I mean, I was, I like how I put on this list book promo. Again, I got my two books here, In the Shadows of the Forest and Shattered Legacy. So survival horror. We will mostly call this fantasy, but there is some sci-fi elements in it, horror elements in it, stuff like that. A lot of my work will be, I think mostly, you're going to see mostly fantasy. There is going to be some major sci-fi entries. Like, I mean, there's going to be a whole series where I essentially want it to be, it will count as sci-fi. It's going to be post-apocalyptic. So, when I get to that point, I'll really start to be banging out the sci-fi, sci-fi, sci-fi. But until then, stuff I've started. So I already got a fantasy thing out, and I'm going to be getting the crime thing out. But there's like three things I'm currently working on that are fantasy. One's a comedic fantasy, also. Totally different tone than what I was mentioning about reading, though. A little bit of absurd too, so I'm having a lot of fun with that, or I had a lot of fun with that. We'll see how I feel when I edit it, because I wrote that manuscript like 2 years ago, and it's a novella. It's really short. We'll see how I feel when I, you know, go and edit it. And yeah, that's the thing too, is a lot of my stuff ends up to be being pretty short. So we have this right here. Um, I This has like, what is it? Yeah, almost 200 pages. But I think I did the formatting wrong. I think I double spaced it, and I don't think you're supposed to do that. I mean, it looks good. I like double spacing, and it does make the pages more. But like, I could save money, and if I do single spacing, single line spacing, and all that, you know, I could have it be let it be a novella, and it won't have to be so, yeah. But yeah, a lot of the stuff is coming out pretty short, which I'm working on beefing up things. One thing I've realized, and I always try to work on when I'm writing, is imagery is one of the biggest things I'm lacking, or just like describe once I get to like describing a setting or something. I don't do enough of that. I tell you what's going on, um, and I'm not saying it's just like only telling you what's going on, but I mostly set up the stage that way, and I don't do enough setting up the stage visually or anything. So I'm trying to work on that kind of thing. But as well as like, getting into someone's thought process and getting them to really spiral on a moment. Like I'm so not like the anime writers that can, monologue for freaking half an episode. So I'm trying to get a little bit more of that. Not too much though. Um, Anyways, so the next thing to tackle here would be the topic of the day. So every episode, I want to talk about a certain topic, maybe related to my work or just rant about it in general. It doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to go back to my writing. Like, we could talk about other things other than my writing. So, um, what I was going to bring up is the importance of story and the evolution of story. So, um, the first time I talked about this, I really mentioned how, you know, as human beings, we crave story. We crave uh, a narrative, and you could look everywhere today in your life and you will see exactly that. People are craving a narrative. And whether that is you know, just trying to see how point A gets to point B, how we have what was the cause that caused the effect that we're observing today. Yeah, people are always craving, story. And it's interesting because the way I look at it and the way it's, I've noticed how important this is because um, sometimes I'll do this thing where I feel bad that the thing I want to do isn't really important or useful to society, and it's like, well, that's not true to an extent because people are always just looking for a narrative. There's always something like people. This is something that people just do naturally. And my favorite thing is to look at the idea of monsters. The tall tales, the legends, and the myths. Things that became religions, things that become political ideologies, things that people try to live by. Like, I'm sure we've all met a person who heard a good joke that was set up real well. Like a very good stand-up comedian sets up a anecdote on why they don't like cruise ships or something like that. And next thing you know, that person's like, yeah, cruises are stupid because of this. Um, in fact, I think that's a huge problem in today's landscape is people listen to someone who's telling a joke and they kind of take it at face value and follow this narrative and kind of believe it full face and be like, oh, you know, yeah, gingers don't have souls is a huge one. You know, it's just a simple joke became a fucking actual like uh bigoted thing, innocently enough too. Even though, yeah, it is sad. A lot of redheads get bullied about that, but you know, um, another huge like the huge thing that I was talking about, tall tales, or when I look at the modern horror story, the biggest formats I see this in is creepypastas. So people just writing on Reddit or whatever, about a thing, and you don't even know if it's real or fake. Sometimes they'll kind of they'll kind of phrase it like it's real, but it's just some guy writing a story. Sometimes it's fake or whatever. Um, One of my favorite ones. Well, it's not even really necessarily a creepy pasta. It was just literally a guy made a picture of Slender Man in the beginning and put just a little bit of something with it, and that took off. And then some guys stole it, made a whole YouTube video ARG thing out of it, the Marble Hornets or whatever. And it's sad because I looked at that and I was like, this is like the new modern like horror icon. And this is like over 10 years ago now, but that was ruined about 10 years ago when those girls fucking stabbed their friend or whatever because they were afraid of Slender Man, taking a story at face value and trying to sacrifice their friend to it, which ended up ruining the movie because, that's something that kind of ties in with the narrative of Slender Man. There's like people that worship it or something, like are indoctrinated by it. I don't know. I don't quite remember. That's a long time ago now. But yeah, ruined. It ruined the movie. Movie didn't do as good. A lot of people were also mad it wasn't exactly like the thing that the people that stole the idea of Slender Man from the original creator did. So it's a sad thing. And also, speaking of sad things, the original creator of Slender Man worked on that movie with people who made that movie. So you were kind of getting a bit of like his take on the character in that movie, hopefully. And yeah, people were mad because it wasn't what they remember. Well, it wasn't canon. It wasn't like not realizing it was technically. But yeah. The other format of story that people really love these days is the true crime podcast, true crime documentary, the true crime whatever. The in general. I mean, you could even just say like true crime is huge because it will be like you heard about some guy who did horrible things to some woman, and a lot of women will sit around and talk about it and get scared, you know. And that's basically the format of true crime right there for the most part. I'm not saying it's only for women. I just know that it is a very big like women talk about it, women absorb it a lot, but and that's just a very like modern version of the horror story. But not only that, we have modern versions of tall tales with, I mean, you could go on TikTok and look at any conspiracy theory, whether it's come from, people saying giants are real, China created a second sun, uh, people are going missing for saying this and that about the, fifth dimension. um, it's a cesspool when you really get into it. And as long as you're looking at it as if it's just stories, oh, there's a lot of fun to be had. But as soon as you are looking at it as your reality, it becomes a lot scarier. And that's kind of like, you know, kind of like the way I look at conservatives, because it's like conservatives look at the world like it is the most interesting dystopian fantasy or dystopian fiction story ever. You know, a poorly written one at that, because a lot of things don't add up. But still, it's fun to think of it that way because they'll tell you, there's a secret cabal of like pedophiles on Mars, and you're like, what? You know, not that there wasn't, not that secret cabal of pedophiles is very far fetched, but like as soon as you make it on Mars, you're like, whoa, you're losing me, man. Like, people could barely get a rover over there, let alone send a bunch of children over there and shit. So, you know, let's chill on that. Let's make your little dystopian tales a little more realistic, please, conservatives. Or Alex Jones is mainly who I'm calling out here. But yeah, as far as like the evolution of story or the craving of story, that is a huge iteration of it. Is like just, oh man, TikTok, all sorts of stuff. And the problem is like I think some people are so bored that they crave this stuff, and we love the idea that it's real. You know, I mean, that's why something I've gotten into recently with my brother Alex, from the Hanging with the Hooligans podcast, is he really wanted me to watch pro wrestling with him. So we watched WWE. I get into it, so he'd be, so he'd want to talk about it on the pod. So now we have something that we could talk about there, and here we are. We're talking about it here. One thing I've noticed is that the narrative is a huge part of it, but wrestling fans really love when they could try to buy the narrative like this is real. So, you know, if you see something and they're like, no, these guys actually have problems in real life, like like they'll they'll eat that up. Like they'll eat up any moment to be like, no, this is real. This was real. That was a real injury. This was real. This was like off the script, and realizing that it's made everything a little funnier for me. But also, I look at things the other way, where I'm like, well, if I were someone, writing trying to write and entertain these people that are fans of wrestling, and then knowing they eat that kind of shit up, I would subvert their expectations all the time with stuff like that, which is what I see them doing. Where, you know, one week a guy's getting injured, next thing you know, he's coming out with crutches weeks later, and he throws the crutches on the ground. Turns out he was fine, like I said. By the way, I called that. Because it didn't look real when he fucking got injured. I thought it looked fake. And, that freaked everyone out. And, um, so, yeah, that's to me, a very good example of uh, people like wanting to believe the story or craving story, even if the story is just as simple as, hey, I'm an egotistical guy and I'm gonna smash you through a table. It's yeah, it's been fun getting into wrestling and all that. Speaking of which, that's another current event thing I can cover here is that one of the wrestlers, or basically my main guy when it comes to wrestling, is Dominic Mysterio because he's from San Diego, where I'm from, and he just recently became the double champion. So he has the Intercontinental Championship belt and the AAA Mega Championship belt, which is a different wrestling promotion, but he's got that belt. And shout out to him. Uh, yeah, I'm just gonna say right now, his reign of success didn't start till the day I started watching him on the most recent WrestleMania. So maybe I'm the lucky one here. Maybe I'm his lucky rabbit's foot or something. You should probably thank me. But yeah, um, it's a trip when it comes to the whole thing about story. I mean, that was a story right there. Is pretending that I'm the reason that I'm the reason that someone that I've never met is successful. That's craving story right there. Just a fun narrative, a little playful thing, and other forms of this that I didn't cover is like the obvious ones. People love the cryptids. People love talking about. I mean, Slender Man was treated like a cryptid, by the way. Um, I have two friends that I'm still friends with today that I cringed at, going, "You moron," because they acted as if Slender Man is a real thing, and I was like, "No, like it's a 4chan thing," because that's where I figured out about Slender Man is 4chan. And, he's thinking it's this, like, or they're thinking it's this thing that sees you and pulls you off into the woods. And I see it in memes where it's fighting a character called Pedo Bear because they both steal children, apparently. So, yeah, that's, God, what a different time we came in, by the way. Pedo Bear. I mean, that's crazy. That's a crazy time we live in. I mean, it's not that crazy, though. I mean, there's a YouTuber. I mean, I'm not. If you're watching, if you see this on YouTube, you probably know who Ethan Klein is. So you're not going to be that surprised. Oh, who's this YouTuber? Yeah, Ethan Klein being exposed as having a Reddit account called Pedo Troll is crazy. And then him being proud of it and just being like, yeah, no, that's me. You guys get over it. I made horrible jokes. Kind of. It's just indicative of you know the times we came from, where people weren't as serious about things on the internet, and probably it's probably better that we do need to be a little more serious on the internet, though, because I would hate to be like a 40-year-old man being fucking gross like that, making horrible jokes like that. So yeah, I'm glad I'm only 31 and make shitty jokes still, but not nearly as bad as I used to when I was 15. But yeah, so to round everything up, yeah. So um, if you're someone who's a writer, or I mean, even any other thing where you play with story, YouTuber, podcaster, whatever, make sure you realize how important the structure of story is to people, and how much society does crave it. I mean, we've craved this ever since we were monkey. You know, early man has been telling tales. The oral passing of legends and stuff for a long time, almost just longer than we could write. So it is an interesting thing to. It's a very important thing probably to us as a species. So don't ever feel like having this special bond with stories makes you feel bad or anything like that, because it's a very important thing. You know, like you know, at the same time, just don't become obsessive with one thing. Also, always have your have as many hats as you can. Have a lot of interests, have a lot of hobbies. You know, but don't feel bad about the story thing. Like, even if it's just different ways of craving story, that's fine too. Because that is, like I said, it's an element at this point. So yeah, well, that's gonna be how the topic of the day works. I'm just walking you through this little podcast structure as I've written it down. How I want it to be, because I like you know want to try to keep myself from ranting inanely too much, even though that's kind of the point. Um, well, point is to rant just enough, make it focused enough that if whoever's listening might actually be like, yeah, that is all right. Unless your goal is to just space out and listen to something, while you're at work, so you don't feel alone or something. Which in that case, thanks for choosing me. But yeah, I guess some closing points. I would say, yeah, I would, I'll do it one more time. Fuck it. In the Shadows of the Forest, survival horror, available on Amazon. I do plan on putting out an audio version of this. In fact, I've had auditions on the ACX site for a year that I just never opened. I need to open it. And if you have happen to be the person who auditioned, I'm so sorry that I didn't get to it. I was, I don't know, sucking ass. Shattered Legacy, Domains Divided. Written by Chuck Bailey and Gilbert. Amazon. I'm going to be starting off on Amazon probably till I have 10 books. And then I'll start putting. That's when I'll probably put these out wide. But until then, there's no ACX version of this. There will be. I'm gonna just And if you happen to be a narrator and you do see that I'm saying this, I'm gonna do a royalty split. I'm gonna do a royalty split for every single one. Probably to incentivize like people like promoting it, you know, so that they can get their bread. But yeah, if you like what you heard today, feel free to like and subscribe, please. Uh, I have a Discord. No one's on it. Actually, sorry, one of my artists that I pay through Shattered Legacy, he's on it because we're going to be doing a project on there together. Um, I haven't really done much with it yet. When I published my first, well, actually no, I added my first book link. It will be kind of, I think, a modern version of like a back content thing in books, because like I've been trying to do like a modern version of that. So right here, to save myself room on back content, I well, I do have an about the author here. Um, where is it? Right here. So just to have it about the author, I'll have this little whatever you call it, 2D label, um, barcode thing. Uh, that's gonna be like where my Discord has a bunch of books and other stuff. Maybe you can find yourself in a community, hopefully, that you enjoy, of people that all enjoy the same stories and can talk and have fun. But then again, no one's in it yet, so I mean, yeah, we'll see what comes of that in the future. Um, Another huge one is I had a Patreon. I don't know what's going on with it. Uh, this new thing called Cloudflare kind of screwed me over when it came to Patreon and Canva. And then by the time I figured out whatever, like I don't even know if I figured it out or it just like got used to my computer somehow. Like the issue's done basically. So uh, I'm gonna make a new Patreon. Is basically gonna be there for some random short stories I'm writing. So I have a home for it. There will be options for different things. There will be different things, whether it's like in the future I plan on doing comics. That might be where I put some bonus stuff there, or like try to uh, have incentives there for people. But ultimately, it's also going to just be a thing. If you want to support me, you know, um, buy me a coffee, as a lot of people say. If you want to buy me a coffee, um, you know, uh, really Patreon will hopefully, depending on if I have enough people, it will enable me to have more time to uh, improve whether it's the videos or the books, because like I'm planning on well, it's like I still gotta hire editors, cover artists, and stuff. Here's the difference between that actually. So here I paid a person on Fiverr. I think it's you know pretty decent, pretty good. They have a little picture of me. This is me. I took that picture. I edited that picture myself. I made this cover myself. As you see, the bleed stops here. There's a black, big black line. I don't like that. And then here, I use the Amazon. I use the Amazon book creator thing. So yeah, the text on the back is huge compared to this, and just you can see night and day. Night and day. So, yeah, Patreon helps me do things like that. You know. So I would appreciate if anyone wants to subscribe to that, even though I don't have one yet. But if you see one, if you see this video and happen to see one, I would appreciate if you donate. I'm not saying you have to. Buying a book is enough. Reviewing the books are enough. Even just commenting what you think of this video is plenty of help to me, or plenty of it's enough. It's just if you want to do more, because some people are very supportive and stuff. Anyways, that's gonna do it for the first episode of Enter the Mindscape with Chuck Bailey. I almost said the Minecraft. Enter the Mindscape with Chuck Bailey. I'm gonna go ahead and end this off, and hopefully this recorded well. Hopefully the sound quality's fine. Otherwise, I'm not gonna put this out.